Hi, everyone. Meteorologist Bill Rentschler in the 1011 Now streaming studio. Hope everyone is having a nice Monday morning. And it is Monday, and that means the long-awaited day is finally here. Again, total solar eclipse going to be taking place later this afternoon here in Lincoln and across much of the state of Nebraska. Again, we're going to be seeing a partial eclipse. But again, we've been having a ton of questions already this morning, kind of on details on what we can expect. What time is it going to start? What's the maximum percentage going to be? When's it going to end? Are we going to be able to see it? And so we're going to kind of go through all this live right now. Again, streaming live right now on 1011's platforms, on our live stream on 1011now.com, on the news app. And we're also streaming live right now on YouTube, which is a great place. If you do have any questions about this eclipse, you can hop on over to our YouTube channel and you can ask your question in the chat, and I can try and get to some of those questions if we have any. But again, over the next couple minutes here, we're just going to kind of go through the details of what we can expect. Again, start time, end time, when our maximum eclipse is going to be, details on what you need to do, and then again look at the forecast for potential cloud cover across the state, because I do think some folks are going to be dealing with some cloud issues this afternoon, while some folks I think are going to be seeing a pretty good show. So we'll go ahead and jump right in and take a look again at the path of totality. Again, we saw this back in 2017 across the state with the annular solar eclipse. Again, this one is a little bit different. It's a total eclipse. So again, this is basically where the moon, again, is going to pass between the Earth and the sun. And the moon, again, which appears small in our sky, again, is much smaller than the sun. But again, the sun is so far away that they're both going to basically appear as the same size. So the moon is going to completely blot out the sun in that path of the total eclipse, which is stretching from southeast Texas through Arkansas into southern Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, and then up through the New England area. So those are the folks that, again, are lucky enough to be there or live there, are going to experience the totality of this eclipse like we got to experience back in 2017. As you get further away from there, you're going to experience some darkening of the sky this afternoon. Not quite totality, though. And across the state of Nebraska, we're going to be looking at anywhere from about 60% to about 80% of the sun being eclipsed as we head for several hours through the course of this afternoon. Again, shortly after 10 o'clock Monday morning, again, we have about 2 hours and change before this eclipse really ramps up and really begins. So again, that's a look at the path of totality. If we zoom in on the state of Nebraska and take a look at kind of what we can expect in terms of our maximum eclipse percentage, it looks like this. Again, the Panhandle, western Nebraska, we're looking at anywhere between about 60 and 70%. North Platte, 70.5% of the sun is going to be blocked by the moon. Scottsbluff, that percentage is down to about 63%. For central sections of the state, we're looking between about anywhere from 70 to about 77, 78% for an eclipse percentage. In Grand Island, it's 76.1. In Hastings, it's 76.9. In Kearney, it's 75.2. For the eastern half of the state, that number is anywhere between about 77 all the way up to around 84%, with the highest percentage across the southeastern corner of the state. And again, that's Falls City, Richardson County. They're going to be around 84, 85% of the sun being eclipsed. In Lincoln, Lancaster County, we're talking about right around 80% of the sun being eclipsed as we reach our peak, our maximum eclipse, which is going to be, again, between about 1:30 and 2 o'clock this afternoon. So, again, that's our maximum. That's what we can expect at its best. But the big question is going to be, will we be able to see it? And again, the good news is I think some of us will. Some of us are going to be having some issues. All of our models have kind of converged and coalesced around this one solution, which includes the southern half of the state basically staying cloud-free and having what we would call good to excellent viewing conditions. Again, if it were going on right now, we would have a great show. The northern half of the state, though, is going to be dealing with some cloud cover. How much cloud cover? Are we going to see breaks in the cloud cover? Again, those folks, areas like Columbus, Norfolk, Ainsworth, Valentine, Atkinson, Chadron, Scottsbluff, are going to maybe need to get lucky at times as we head through the afternoon to get a glimpse of this eclipse. If I go ahead and I'm going to punch up right now what the visible satellite imagery looks like. This is the current visible satellite image across the United States, and you can see if we zoom in kind of on the central and northern plains a lot of north South Dakota, and then into parts of northern Nebraska is where we're already dealing with some pretty thick cloud cover. And if I'm going to go ahead and zoom in even closer here onto the state of Nebraska, and again, you can see where some of that cloud cover is across the northern quarter of the state. And it's this cloud cover that we're going to have to keep an eye on here as we head over the next several hours. It's going to continue to try and dip further to the south. And again, how far south it goes, again, is going to be the big question mark. But again, it looks like it's going to remain north of the interstate. So along and south of Interstate 80, southern Nebraska into parts of northern Kansas, I think we're going to be okay. We're going to, I think, have a pretty good show, good viewing conditions. It's the northern half of the state that I do think we may need to get a little bit lucky in terms of the viewing conditions as we head through the afternoon hour. So again, that is going to be something to watch over the next several hours, where that cloud cover is, where it kind of drifts, and the rest of it. And so again, may need to see some breaks, may need to get lucky in a few locations. Here's what the eclipse will look like in Lincoln and eastern Nebraska. Again, that partial eclipse is going to begin, again, it's about 10:15 now, in about 2.5 hours or so. 12:38 and 30 seconds is when the partial eclipse will begin. And so again, the moon will basically kind of come from the bottom right of the sun and begin to eclipse the sun from that direction. Again, beginning at 12:38. Over the course of about an hour and 15 minutes, we will see the sun or the moon basically move in front of the sun. Our maximum eclipse is going to occur at 1:53 and 42 seconds, and we're going to see again about 80% in Lincoln of the sun eclipsed. We're going to be able to see kind of the top right half of the sun still visible for our eclipse. Again, not in totality. We're still going to see a sliver of the sun. During this time, we will still see some darkening. Again, it will get dark. For those in the path of totality, it will be very dark. So dark, in fact, that you can actually see, again, some planets in the sky. It won't be that dark here across the state, but again, it will be significantly darker. And temperatures may also drop a few degrees as well during this time frame. So don't be surprised, again, if you're out. And again, it does actually maybe feel a little bit cooler because temperatures, again, will drop a few degrees because we are going to lose out on some of that solar radiation. So 1:53 and 42 seconds is the maximum eclipse time for Lincoln. And then the eclipse will continue for about another hour and 20 minutes or so. The partial eclipse will then end at 3:08 and 50 seconds. So that's the time for Lincoln. What about the rest of the state? These are the start times for the rest of the state. Again, it's between about 12:35 and about 12:40 Central Time. Again, those areas in Mountain Time, it's going to be 11:30 to 11:35 or so in that time frame. But Central Times are listed on this graphic. And again, the start time, again, like I mentioned in Lincoln, is 12:38 p.m. It's 12:37 in Grand Island. It's 12:41 in Wayne. It's 12:38 in Valentine. It's 12:33 in McCook. It's 12:32 in Imperial. 12:34 in Ogallala. Again, Mountain Time. Or that's Central Time. Mountain Time would be 11:34. So that's the start time. So it's going to be during the lunch hour. Maximum eclipse times, again, we already said in Lincoln, it's about 1:53. And for basically across the state, Central Time, it's between about 1:45 and 1:55 is when our maximum eclipse time will happen. And then the eclipse will end, like I mentioned for Lincoln, a little after 3 o'clock, but basically between about 2:55 and 3:10 is when we'll see the eclipse come to an end across the state. So again, those are kind of some of the basic details of what we can expect as we head through the afternoon hours. Again, there's another look at the visible satellite imagery. Again, we're going to keep an eye on those clouds across the northern tier of the state because, again, that could be the big issue as we head through this afternoon. Some of the other questions that we've seen and kind of have is, what's the difference between what we're seeing today and what we saw in 2017? 2017, it was an annular eclipse, so we saw, again, the ring of fire around the sun. Again, because the moon was a little bit further away from the Earth in its orbit. Again, it's all sort of geometry-based. With this total solar eclipse, again, the moon and the sun will basically be the same size, so it will completely blot out the sun. So again, this is a total solar eclipse versus an annular solar eclipse, which is what we had in 2017. And again, these don't happen all that often. Again, just because you got to be in the right place at the right time. But they do happen a couple times every year, every couple years. Again, you just got to be in the right place. But for Lincoln, we're not going to see another eclipse like this until 2048. So for another 24 years. So again, good chance to get out and see a pretty cool astronomical phenomenon, because it's going to be a long time before we see something like this again. It's going to be June of 2048, and we are going to see an annular solar eclipse that Lincoln and parts of eastern Nebraska, again, we'll see a fairly high percentage of that eclipse, almost in the path of totality, if not in the path of totality for that eclipse. And that's going to be, again, parts basically south central, southeastern, northeastern sections of the state, kind of in that path of totality for that eclipse. That's not until June 11th of 2048. But again, another total solar eclipse like this, again, we're not in the path of totality, but again, for Lincoln, it's not going to happen for a long, long time. So again, a good chance to get out and see a pretty cool thing. Again, as always, you need to make sure you're wearing your solar eclipse glasses. Again, you do not want to look at the sun or the eclipse without those glasses. Even though it's a partial eclipse, you still could damage your eyes and your vision if you're looking directly at the sun. So again, I stopped at multiple places this morning on my way into work to try and pick up some of those glasses, and they were fairly sold out. So again, you may have to get lucky in terms of maybe finding a last-minute pair. If you still have your pair from 2017, those still may work, but again, you want to make sure they're not scratched or damaged, have any little holes in them or anything like that. So that's something to check and see. Again, I don't know how many people saved their eclipse glasses from 7 years ago. Some people did. Some people still haven't, but again, I think those would be okay to reuse as long as they're not damaged. But again, last minute here, you may need to go try and pick up, again, a pair of those eclipse glasses, as you don't want to look directly at the sun. You can do some at-home little devices, a pinhole viewer, and things like that. You can find some information online about how to create those, basically poking a hole in a shoebox and using that. You can use a pasta strainer and kind of use that and look at the shadows that it's making on the ground, and you can kind of see the sun being eclipsed by the moon. So there are multiple ways. If you miss out and you don't have those solar eclipse glasses, there are still safe ways to kind of watch what's going on. But again, do not want to look directly at the sun even during the partial eclipse. Just want to make sure everyone understands that. And there's going to be a ton of different ways to watch the solar eclipse online and on TV as well, through social media. It's going to be streaming in a ton of different places on our channel here on 1011now.com and our online streaming platforms. We're going to be streaming our local news live coverage, which is going to be covering it across the country from all of our local stations, stretching from parts of southeast Texas, again, all the way up through the New England area. So again, you can watch online on 1011now.com. You can watch that local news live coverage. And again, I'm sure all the networks, including CBS, are going to have coverage of the eclipse as we head throughout the afternoon. So just wanted to, again, I've had a ton of questions in the newsroom so far this morning, again, asking kind of the who, what, when, where, why of it all. So just kind of wanted to, again, touch base on all those to try and get that information out there again, as, again, it should be a pretty fun afternoon. And I hope everyone can get out and can enjoy it. So, again, if you have any questions, you can always, again, send them to us on social media, whether it's me or meteorologist Brad Anderson, or you can always, again, give the desk email a shout as well, assignment desk at 1011now.com to get those questions our way again. And usually a quick Google search will help you along the way as well. But again, appreciate everyone for tuning in, for watching. Really excited to see what we can see this afternoon. Again, northern half of the state, like I mentioned, may have to get a little bit lucky in terms of those viewing conditions. Southern half of the state, I think we're going to see a pretty good show this afternoon, and I think generally going to be cloud-free or very little in the way of cloud cover, so very good viewing conditions. So again, appreciate everyone for tuning in and for watching. Again, as always, keep it tuned to 1011, both on air and online, for all of your latest news, weather, and sports. Hope everyone has a nice Monday.